We mocked the human for a whole season before the long hunt, and then he hunted every one of us in a single night and let us all live. And the letting live was the thing that broke us open, because we were the Skarn, and the Skarn had never once in our history been prey. And we did not know, until a soft, slow human showed us in the dark, that being prey was a thing you could survive, or that surviving it would change what kind of hunters we became. I am Skrell. I was a cadet of the Apex schools, at the Great Hunt Academy in the Thornwood, the oldest and proudest of them, where my people send our young to be made into what we are, which is the finest hunters the galaxy has produced. And I was one of the ones who mocked him hardest, and I am telling this with that on me, because the change he worked is not a thing you earn the right to describe by having been kind. I earned it by being cruel and then being hunted and then understanding. That is the only road to it, I think. He seemed to know that. He hunted the cruel ones first. You have to understand the Skarn, and you have to understand the never hunted, or none of it will land. We are apex predators. Not in the loose way every proud species calls itself that, truly, completely, by the deep design of our world. The Skarn evolved at the top of the most savage food web our region of the stars has ever catalogued, and we evolved there so long ago and so thoroughly that we have, alone among the peoples of the galaxy, no prey instincts at all. None. Every other thinking species carries them, buried but real, the flinch, the freeze, the prey animal's deep knowledge of what it is to be hunted, because every other species was, somewhere back down its line, something's food. Not us. The Skarn were never anything's food. We came up the whole long climb as the hunter and never once as the hunted, and so we are built without the other half of the thing. We have the predator's instincts honed to a terrible edge, and we have, where the prey knowledge should be, nothing, a blank, a missing sense. We do not know fear the way other peoples know it. We do not know in our bodies what it is to be the small thing in the dark that something larger is coming for. We had never needed to know. That was our glory, and it turned out the exact shape of our wound. The Apex schools exist to sharpen the predator, and they have no curriculum at all for the other thing, because the other thing is not in us to teach. We learn the hunt, tracking, ambush, the kill, the cold, beautiful patience of the stalk, and we learn it as the only relationship a Skarn can have with a living thing that is not another Skarn. You are the hunter, it is the quarry, and that is the whole of the world. We are not cruel by our own lights. You cannot be cruel to prey any more than you can be cruel to the air. Cruelty requires that you imagine the other thing's suffering, and a Skarn cannot imagine being the suffering thing, has no template for it. And so we hunt and kill and feel nothing we would call cruelty, only the clean rightness of the apex doing what the apex does. I tell you this not to excuse us, but so you understand how deep the human had to reach to change us. He was not fighting a belief. He was building a sense we had never had. The human came to the Thornwood as an exchange student, the first of his kind the Apex schools had taken, and we could not believe what the galaxy had sent us. Daniel Reyes, soft, slow, flat-faced, blunt-toothed, weak-clawed, clawless, really, the little human nails a joke among us within the hour. He had no hunting build at all that we could see, none of the long muscle and the killing architecture that even the client species hunters who sometimes trained with us at least gestured at. He looked like prey. That was the thing. To a Skarn eye, Daniel Reyes looked exactly like the soft, slow things we were bred to run down, and the Apex schools had enrolled him as an asterisk hunter, as our equal, to learn the long hunt alongside us. And the insult of it, the absurdity, set the whole cohort laughing, and the laughing curdled fast, the way it does among the young, into a season of mockery. We were relentless. I was relentless. We did to Daniel Reyes what the Skarn do, which is treat the prey-shaped thing as prey. We stalked him in the corridors as a game. We sprang the small ambushes that are how Skarn young play. We made the hunting sounds at him. The low call that means I have your scent, you are mine, and we watched for the flinch, the freeze, the prey response, because that is the response the prey shape is supposed to give, and giving us nothing else to read, we expected it from him hourly. Let me show you one, because I want you to have my cruelty in front of you and not let me hide it in a summary. It was perhaps the third week. 6 of us had decided to run the corridor game on him properly, the coordinated kind, the kind we played on each other for sport. 3 of us to drive, 3 to wait. The prey shape herded down a hall toward the cadets crouched ready to spring out and put him on the ground, not to hurt exactly, just to take, just to prove the taking. We drove him beautifully. I was a driver. I made the call behind him, the I have your scent call, and watched his back, waiting for the run, the panic, the prey flight that would send him straight into the ambush. And he did not run. He walked. He walked down that corridor at exactly the pace he had been walking, and when the 3 waiting cadets exploded out of the side hall to take him, he simply was not quite where they came down, a small step, a turn of the shoulders, nothing fast, nothing that looked like much, and the 3 of them crashed into each other where he had been, and he kept walking, and at the corner he stopped and looked back at all 6 of us, and he did not bare his teeth and he did not flee, he just looked. That patient, unsettling look, and he said, mild as anything, "You drive well. You're loud, though." I could hear the back 3 breathing from 40 feet. And he went on to his class, and the 6 of us stood in the corridor not quite able to look at each other, and I told myself it was luck, and I made the hunting call after him down the empty hall to feel like a hunter again, and it sounded thin, even to me. I watched him alone once that season, when he did not know he was watched, which should tell you something in itself, that a Skarn cadet could not get close enough to the prey shape unseen to watch it, that I had to do it from a high gallery across the training yard, because every time I came near at ground level he always knew, he would tip his head a fraction toward me before I had decided to move. From the gallery I watched him run the obstacle course the Apex schools set for endurance, the long, brutal circuit that we Skarn tear through in a few savage bursts and then rest, the way a predator does, all explosion and recovery. Daniel Reyes did not tear through it. He could not. His soft, slow body had no bursts in it. What he had instead I sat and watched for the better part of a morning, unable to look away, was a thing I had no category for, which was that he simply did not stop. He went around the circuit at one steady, unremarkable human pace, slow enough that any Skarn cadet would have lapped him twice in the first hour. And then in the third hour the Skarn cadets were resting, panting, recovered and spent and recovering. And the human was still going. The same pace, exactly the same. And in the 5th hour the others had finished and gone and he was still going. The same pace, not faster, not slower, soaked and gray-faced and clearly in something close to agony and not stopping. Around and around. And I understood watching him that he was not trying to be fast, and had never been trying to be fast. That fast was not the axis his people competed on at all. He was demonstrating to no one alone for himself, the only thing he had, that he would still be moving after everything built to be faster than him had stopped. I did not know yet that I was watching a rehearsal. I thought it was just strange. I thought, the prey thing cannot even rest properly, and I went away. And I did not understand that I had just seen, in daylight, in miniature, exactly what was going to happen to all 40 of us in the dark. And here was the first strange thing, the first loose thread, though I did not feel it as a thread then. Daniel Reyes did not flinch. He did not freeze. He did not give the prey response ever, not once in a whole season of our hunting him. But he did not give the Skarn response either, the meeting of aggression with aggression, the bristle and the challenge. He gave a third thing, a thing we had no name for, which was that he watched us back, calmly, with a kind of patient attention that I found, even at my most mocking, faintly unsettling, the way you are unsettled by a sound you cannot place. He learned our names, all of us, the whole cohort, which we noticed and mocked as more soft prey foolishness, the quarry making friends. He learned our hunting calls, which we did not notice at all, because it did not occur to us that the prey was studying the predators, that every time we made the I have your scent call at him in the dark he was filing it away, the pitch and the cadence of it, learning the language of the thing that hunted him the way his strange, persistent people had always learned the things that hunted them, until the hunter's own speech belonged to him. We thought he was absorbing our mockery. He was taking inventory. There is a difference, and we would learn it in the Thornwood. When I made the hunting call at him in the dark of the lower halls, the call that drops every prey species in the galaxy into freezing terror, Daniel Reyes turned toward me, unhurried, and looked at me, and there was no fear in it and no anger in it. There was something worse, something I could not read at all, something almost like asterisk recognition, as though he were filing me away, and then he went back to whatever he had been doing, and left me standing in the dark with my hunting call dying in my throat, and a feeling I refused to examine. The hunt mistress watched all of it. Vasa, her name was, old and scarred and the purest hunter in the Thornwood, and she ran the long hunt, which is the central rite of the Apex schools, the great exercise toward which a whole season builds. The long hunt is simple and total. The cohort goes into the deep Thornwood for a night, and there is a quarry, and the cohort hunts it, all of us together, the full pack, and the quarry is meant to test us, usually a clever, fast beast, sometimes a willing client species hunter playing the role, and we run it down through the dark as a demonstration of everything we are. And Hunt Mistress Vasa, watching a season of us treat the human as prey, made a decision that she presented as honor, and that the whole cohort understood as the punchline to the season's long joke. She named Daniel Reyes the quarry of the long hunt. The prey-shaped human would be the prey. The whole pack, all of us, the finest young hunters of the Skarn, would hunt the soft, slow, clawless thing through the deep Thornwood in the dark, and run it down, and that would be the lesson and the rite and the end of the season's amusement, the natural order made flesh in front of everyone. I remember Daniel Reyes when she announced it. The whole cohort had turned to look at him, to see the prey shape receive the news that it was, formerly now, prey. And he was quiet for a moment, and then he did the thing I have thought about every day since, the thing none of us understood and all of us would understand by morning. He smiled. Not the bared teeth thing that means threat among us, a closed, soft human smile, almost kind, almost sorry. And he said in the trade speech mildly, the only words he ever spoke about it beforehand. Okay, but I should tell you where I'm from, my kind didn't get to the top by being the fastest, or the strongest, or having the best claws. He looked around at us, at the whole proud pack of us, and the smile stayed, and it was the gentlest thing, and it raised the fur along my spine for reasons I could not name. We got there because once we decide to follow something, we don't stop, ever. We're the thing that's still coming after everything faster than us has run itself to death. He shrugged, a soft human shrug. You're going to hunt me tonight. That's fine. I just don't think it's going to go the way you think it's going to go. We laughed. Of course we laughed. We were the Skarn, and we had never been prey, and the prey shape had just made a noise about being dangerous, and it was the funniest thing we had heard all season. We went into the Thornwood that night certain, every one of us, that we were the hunters. By the time the night was over, the Skarn would understand, for the first time in the history of our species, what we had never had the sense to know we were missing. The Thornwood at night is the Skarn's own place, the ground we were made for, and we went into it that night as the pack, 40 young hunters fanning out under the black canopy, with the human loosed somewhere ahead of us as quarry. And for the first hour, it was exactly the right it had always been, and we were exactly what we had always been, and I want to set that down so you feel the height we fell from. We had his scent and his trail. He was not hard to track at first, a heavy soft thing crashing through undergrowth a Skarn would have flowed through silent, and we ran the trail in the beautiful coordinated way the Apex schools teach, the pack spreading and calling, the low hunting calls passing between us through the dark, tightening the net. I was near the front. I was good, I was one of the best of the cohort, and I felt the clean joy of the hunt, the rightness of it, the prey shape fleeing ahead of us through our own forest, and I thought, running, he was right that it would not go the way we thought. It is going to be even easier than we thought. The soft thing cannot even hide its trail. And then we came to the place where his trail stopped being a fleeing thing's trail and became something else, and the night turned over and did not turn back. It stopped being a trail that ran. It became a trail that asterisk circled. I was the one who saw it first, and I did not understand it first. I only felt the wrongness of it. The heavy crashing track we had been chasing looped and crossed our own back trail, and I stood over the place where the human's path crossed the path we had come in by, and the cold understanding came up my spine before my mind had it. He was not fleeing through the Thornwood ahead of us. He had let us pass him. He was behind us now. The quarry was behind the pack. And then the calls started going wrong in the dark. The hunting call, the low one we passed between us to keep the net tight, it began to come from the wrong places. From behind. From flanks where no cadet should have been. And we answered it by reflex, the way you answer your packmate, and only slowly did the cohort begin to understand, one cadet at a time, scattered through the black forest, that some of the calls in the dark were not ours. He had learned it. A whole season of us making the hunting call at him. The call that means I have your scent, you are mine, and the human had learned it, had it perfectly, and was using it now in the dark of our own forest to hurt us, to send us toward each other and away from each other, to turn our own coordination into confusion. The pack's net closing on nothing, on phantoms, on the call of a hunter who was not where the call came from. I have to tell you what it was like when it reached me, because this is the thing the Skarn had never felt, the thing there are no Skarn words for because we never needed them. I was alone, suddenly, separated from the pack in the deep dark by the wrong calls, and I heard movement behind me, and I turned, and there was nothing, and I heard it again to the side and turned, and nothing. And a feeling began in me that I did not recognize because no Skarn had ever had it, a cold tightening, a wrongness in the body, the sense of a larger thing in the dark that was aware of me and that I could not find. And I understand now what it was. It was fear, the prey fear. The missing sense, the blank where the other half of the predator should be, was filling in, for the first time in the history of my people, because something was hunting me patiently in the dark, and was better at it than I was, and I could not see it, and the deep old animal part of me that had never once been used was waking up screaming the thing that every other species in the galaxy is born knowing and the Skarn never had to learn. You are being hunted. You are the prey. Run. And I ran. We all ran by the end, the whole proud cohort of us, scattered and calling and finding our calls answered in his voice, running through our own forest from a soft, slow, clawless thing that we could not find and that found each of us, one by one, all night, because he did find us. That is the spectacle of it, the thing the title promises and the thing that is true. The human turned the entire school into his prey completely that night in the Thornwood. He took us one at a time, the whole cohort, 40 young apex predators in the ground we were made for, and there was nothing any of us could do about it, because we were fast and strong and clawed and we had no idea, none, how to be hunted, how to think as the hunted thinks, how to do the 1,000 things prey species do without thinking to survive the dark. And he had all of it, the patience, the circling, the endless not stopping he had warned us about. We're the thing that's still coming after everything faster than us has run itself to death, and he had been telling the plain truth, and we had laughed. He caught me near dawn. I had run myself to exhaustion, the way he said, the fast thing running itself down while the patient thing simply kept coming, and I had gone to ground in a thicket with my hearts hammering a rhythm they had never hammered, the prey rhythm, and I heard him come, unhurried, and I could not run any more. And I turned to face the thing that had hunted me through the ruin of everything I thought I was. And Daniel Reyes stepped into the thicket in the gray first light, not even breathing hard, and looked down at me where I had gone to ground, shaking, a Skarn cadet asterisk shaking, feeling in my body for the first time the terror that my species had spent its whole history never having to feel, and he had me. Completely. I was his. By every law of the hunt that the apex schools had ever taught me, by the only law a Skarn knows, the quarry that is run to ground and cannot flee belongs to the hunter, and I was run to ground, and he was the hunter, and I waited shaking to be taken, the way I had taken so many quarry myself and felt nothing, the clean rightness of the apex, and now I was on the other side of it at last, the soft, slow thing in the dirt, and I understood finally completely. In the one place understanding lives, what that had always meant for the thing on the other side. And the human, who had hunted 40 apex predators through a night and had every one of us at his mercy by dawn, who had turned the proudest hunt school in the galaxy into his prey exactly as the mockery had dared him to, looked down at me in the dirt, and did the thing that was the real lesson, the thing the whole night had been for. He crouched down, that was all. He crouched down to where I lay shaking in the dirt so that he was not looming over me anymore, so that the larger thing made itself smaller, and he held out one of his soft clawless hands, palm up, the way you do for a frightened animal, and he said gently in the trade speech, "Hey, hey, it's okay, you're okay, the hunt's over, I'm not going to hurt you." And I did not understand it. That was the first thing, the thing I have to make you feel. I did not understand the words, not because I did not know them, but because they did not fit any frame I had. I'm not going to hurt you. The quarry run to ground belongs to the hunter. That is the law. There is no other law. He had me, I was his completely, by every right of the hunt, and the taking is what comes next. The taking is the whole point and the only point. And instead the hunter who had earned me was crouching in the dirt, making himself small and telling me, in the gentlest voice I had ever heard, that the hunt was over and I was safe. I lay there and shook and could not make it mean anything, because to mean anything it would have to fit into the world, and it did not fit into the world. It broke the world, the soft, small world of Hunter and Quarry that was the only world a Skarn had ever lived in. He let me up. He let me go. He had run me to ground, and he let me get to my feet and stand there trembling in the dawn, and he did not take me. And then I learned this as the morning gathered and the scattered cohort came together. He had done it to every one of us. All 40. He had hunted the whole school through the night, taken each of us, had each of us at his mercy in the dirt exactly as he'd had me, and he had let every single one of us live. 40 apex predators, run down and caught and spared, by a thing we had called prey, and not one of us could understand it. And the not understanding was the doorway he had spent the whole night building, the doorway into the sense we had never had. Because here is what Daniel Reyes did, and I did not see the shape of it until much later, and when I saw it I had to sit down. He did not turn the Skarn into prey to humiliate us, or to dominate us, or to prove humans were the better predator, though he had proven that and could have ruled the cohort on it if he'd wanted, the way Skarn always rule, by being the most dangerous thing in the room. He turned us into prey to make us feel it, to give us, deliberately, with enormous patience and skill and care, the one experience our entire species had never had and could not get any other way, the terror of being hunted, the prey fear, the missing sense. And then, at the moment that terror was complete, at the moment each of us lay run to ground and certain of the end, to spare us, to let us survive it. So that we would carry, forever now, two things we had never had before and that no Skarn in 900 generations had ever carried. The knowledge, in the body, of what our prey feels, and the knowledge that being hunted is a thing that can end in mercy. He gave the never hunted the prey's fear, and then he gave us the prey's deliverance. And between those two gifts he reached into the Skarn and built, in a single night, the half of us that had been missing since before we left our world. When the cohort came together at dawn, shaken, silent, 40 hunters who had each spent the night discovering they could be hunted, Daniel Reyes stood among us, soft and slow and clawless, no longer prey-shaped to any of us, no longer prey-shaped ever again, and he said the thing I have built the rest of my life around. He was not gloating. He was almost sad, the way he had been sad when Vasa named him Quarry. "You hunt things," he said, "and you've never once been the thing that's hunted, and I figured out pretty fast that that was the whole problem with you. Not that you're cruel. You're not cruel exactly. It's that you can't imagine it. You do terrible things to soft, slow creatures and you feel nothing because you've never been the soft, slow creature in the dark. So I thought, okay, I'll show them, just once. I'll let them feel it, and then I'll let them live, because the feeling's no good to anybody if it kills you. The feeling's only good if you walk out the other side carrying it." He looked around at us, gentle, terrible, the most dangerous thing in the Thornwood and the kindest. Now you know. Now when you run something down in the dark, you'll know what it's feeling because you felt it. That's all I wanted. I didn't want to beat you. I wanted you to be able to imagine the thing you catch. That's the only thing that turns a predator into a person. And then he said the last thing, the thing that reframed the whole of what we were, and I have never gotten it out of me. One of the cohort, wild-eyed, still shaking, unable to bear it, bared its teeth at him, the threat display, the reach for the only answer a Skarn has when the world stops making sense, which is aggression. And Daniel Reyes looked at it with that soft, sorry calm, completely unafraid, and he said, "Yeah, that right there, the teeth. The bristling, hurting things because you're scared and you don't have another move. That's not what a predator does. That's what scared prey does. I come from the actual top of an actual food chain, friend, and the thing about being really, truly the most dangerous thing around is that you don't have to prove it to anybody ever so you can afford to be kind. The cruelty was never strength. It was fear with good teeth. You were the most frightened people I ever met. You just never had anything to be frightened of, so it came out sideways as cruelty and you called it being the apex." He shook his head slow. "Real apex is calm. Real apex is gentle. Real apex lets you up out of the dirt. You'll see." The long hunt was never the same after that night, and neither were the Skarn, though it took a generation and it is not finished, and I will not pretend it is. We could not unfeel it. 40 of us came out of the Thornwood that dawn carrying the prey fear and the prey deliverance both, and we taught at the Apex schools when we were older, and we changed the long hunt. There is a part of it now, the part Daniel Reyes left us, where every young Skarn hunter, before they are permitted to take quarry, must spend one night as the quarry, hunted through the dark by their instructors and run to ground and spared, so that no Skarn ever again takes a living thing without knowing, in the body, what the living thing feels. We hunt still, we are still what we are. But we hunt now as a people who have been hunted, and that is a different thing entirely from what we were. And the difference is the whole of what one soft, slow human reached into us and built. I have thought for a long time about why it had to be a human, and I think this is the truth of it. Any sufficiently strong species could have beaten us. Strength is common. But it took a particular kind of creature to beat us completely, have all 40 of us helpless in the dirt, and then not take us to own that much power over a proud, cruel people, and spend it entirely on making us able to imagine the things we hurt. That is not strength. We had always had strength, and it had only made us crueler. That was something else, something the humans seemed to carry as naturally as we carried claws, and I have only one word for it. And it is the word I was missing my whole life, until a clawless thing hunted me through the dark to give it to me. The human was merciful, and he was merciful not despite being the most dangerous thing in the forest, but because of it, because he was so completely the apex that he had nothing left to prove, and could spend the whole of his terrible power on kindness. They mocked the human, and he turned the entire school into his prey, exactly as the story says. But he did not do it to make us afraid of him. He did it to make us, at last, able to be sorry. And a predator that can be sorry for its prey is the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, and the gentlest. And the Skarn had to be hunted through one long night by a soft, slow human to learn that those were always the same thing.